Good afternoon and welcome to the February 6th meeting of the Lincoln City Council. In accordance with LB 898, please be advised that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted at the back of the chamber by the northwest door. Let us all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a brief period of silent meditation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The order of business of the City Council is as follows. The clerk will call the items listed on the agenda. Under public hearing, anyone wishing to speak on an item should come forward after the clerk reads that item. The council shall require any member of the public desiring to address the council to identify themselves, the name of an organization or group, including an address that you may be representing by such person or group, unless the address requirement is waived to protect the security of that individual. The applicant may then make one short rebuttal. Each speaker should begin by stating their name, address, organization or group, and whether you are speaking in favor of or in opposition to the item. Testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. After all public hearing, the council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last Mondays of the month, immediately prior to adjournment, anyone may speak on any issue not on the agenda for that date nor planned for a future agenda. Madam Clerk, will you please call the first item of business?
Our first item today is a notice due to President's Day holiday. We will not meet on Monday, February 20th, 2023. Next on our agenda would be our consent agenda, sections 1 and sections 2.
Anyone present to speak on items 1 and 2, please come forward. Items 1 and 2. Seeing none, let's please move on.
We can now vote on these items. I'll be calling item 1A, approving the distribution of funds representing interest earnings on short-term investments of idle funds during the month ended October 31st, 2022, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Seconded by Suarez. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the vote.
Suarez? Yes. Bowers?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 1B is approving the distribution of funds representing interest earnings on short-term investments of idle funds during the month ended November 30th, 2022, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Washington. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the vote.
Washington?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Suarez?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. That concludes our consent agenda. We shall move on to section 4, our public hearing liquor resolutions. I'll be calling items 4A and 4B together. Item 4A.
Anyone present to testify on this item? Item 4A.
I'll read the application in.
Thank
4A
you.
is application of Diamond Palace LLC, doing business as Diamond Palace for a Class I liquor license located at 2301 Northwest 12th Street, and the related manager application of Arzu Hadi.
Anyone present on item 4A? Please come forward. Thank you. Welcome.
Hello. Can you raise your right hand, please, and I'll swear you in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
Yes.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about your application and your place of business?
Yes. I'm Arzu Hadi, opening a banquet hall, Northwest 12th Street. I did some research and came to a conclusion that it is safer and better for our business to have our own liquor license and manage it ourselves instead of having a vendor bring it or a licensed, person that would serve it in our facility. So although I am Muslim, I have never touched liquor or anything in my life before. But at this point, I do not mix my religion with my profession. My hall will be for any religion, any ethnic group, anybody, including people that they do serve liquor in their events. So just for that fact, for respect for them and their beliefs, me and my husband decided to just open it strictly under our own name because we're Muslims, and we would be a lot more stricter managers when it comes to liquor. I don't know, just because I don't know what it is. So for that reason, I applied to have one under my own name in my own banquet hall.
Well, we appreciate that, and we're glad that you're here today.
Thank you.
Any questions for our applicant or comments? No? All right, thank you. Yes,
I did have a question.
Councilwoman Suarez.
Thank you. I just wanted to know if you were able to complete the alcohol management training on November 9th?
I have not. Thursday, I
Okay.
filled out the application and stuff for Thursday.
You're registered to attend
Yes.
shortly. Thank you.
Yes.
Good question. Thank you, Councilwoman, and thank you again for being here. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it very much.
All right.
Investigator Parker, we have a question from Councilman Shob for you. You may seat until we have a vote. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Councilman Shob.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Investigator Parker, did you have any concerns additionally to this application?
No.
The testifier gave a great summary. I wasn't sure if you had anything you'd like to add or were any concerns.
No concerns. Investigator Parker, Lincoln Police Department, 575 South 10th Street. Nope, no concerns. We had a good discussion on the phone. Next week, actually, when we are done here, we're going to go out and do the site inspection. The manager's course that she's going to take on Thursday will be very encompassing. And at least the way that I run my office, if there's ever any questions or concerns, they can always get a hold of me whenever they need to.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Investigator Parker.
Welcome.
All right, Madam Clerk, can you please move us on?
I'll be calling item 4C, application of Kincaid Brewing Company doing business as Beer House Maschler for a special designated license to cover an outdoor area measuring approximately 85 feet by 85 feet at 151 North 8th Street on February 25th, 2023 from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m.
Hello, Council. My name is Cody Schmick, CODY-SCHMICK. Bringing this before you today, we have never actually closed down a section of the street. We pulled a lot of SDLs over the years with no incidents for game days and other events. This one is for our German beer house at Beer House Maschiller. It's called Bachfest. Think of like a winter Oktoberfest, basically, is what it'll be. We'll do more sausages and pretzels out of our kitchen. Beer on draft, and some cocktails as well. Be glad to answer any questions specific to the event.
Thank you, Mr. Schmick, for being here again.
You bet.
Questions or comments for our applicant? Yes,
There were.
Councilwoman Washington.
It's not, I was going to ask a question, but you explained what Bachfest is.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I was trying to find a holiday and couldn't find it.
So Bach is a German style of beer that's drank in the wintertime, more so. So yeah, you'll start seeing more Bachfest pop up around the country, but Lincoln's never had one, so we're going to give it a shot. So
Councilman Shob.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Cody, thanks for coming forward.
you bet.
I'm having trouble visualizing the space.
Sure.
Can you give me some reference points?
yeah, so if
Which
you look
direction?
at that corner of 8th and P where the beer house sits, directly across from us is the what's the building?
Apothecary?
Building. So we will be on the inside of the crosswalk. The crosswalk will still be there intact, open to the public. We're going to run a fence right across there, and then down to the alley. So the alley will still have free access. My manager Danny went around to all the other businesses and got signed off as well. They're excited about us doing it. It won't. The only thing it will impede is north and south on that little section. We did, just to let you guys know too, we do this on all of our licenses, and I should tighten it up. It says 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. We're really going to be from noon to 8 with a few hours setting up before and a few hours tearing down after. So the festival will move indoors by 8 p.m. is the plan. So
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for that.
You're welcome.
Indulging me.
Any other questions for Mr. Schmidt? All right, seeing none,
Thank you.
thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it.
Anyone else present to testify on this item, item 4C? Anyone else? All right, seeing none, Councilman Shob, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Caught me daydreaming about beer.
The beer?
Yes. With seeing no one else coming forward, I'd like to move approval of item 4A through 4C.
Second.
Seconded by Washington. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the vote.
Bowers?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Suarez?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Beer.
That concludes Section 4. We shall now move on to Section 5, Public Hearing Resolutions. Item 5A is approving the StarTran Van Link on demand fare increase per trip.
Good afternoon. Liz Elliott, Director of Lincoln Transportation Utilities, 555 South 10th. Our VanLink program was implemented in response to the pandemic back in April of 2020. It was one of the first on-demand ride shares offered by a public transit agency. And so it was exciting to get it started. We didn't have a lot of information going back in. But at the time, we wanted to be mindful of the economic impacts that the pandemic was bringing. We had some CARES funding available to help complement the costs of operations of this. And so we kicked it off. We've learned a lot throughout, but overall the program has been extremely successful. It's up right now, since its inception, we've been offering rides for $5 per trip. So that's a one-way. If we're going from here to the grocery store, that's $5. A return trip home would be an additional $5 from that. And that's regardless of where you're at in the city. So if you're familiar with on-demand ride shares, it depends on the distance, it depends on the time of day, the day of the week, and if there's any other events going into town. This is just $5 flat rate regardless of where you're going, day, time, or anything else. As we've pulled out of the pandemic, we've expended all of our CARES funding, but this is a program we would like to see continue, and we would like to make it so it's sustainable with our operations. So we are proposing changing the fare from the $5 flat rate to an $8 flat rate. This covers the cost of operations, yet it ensures affordability for all of our customers who are using this. This, again, would be a flat rate regardless of time, day, or any events going on in town. We compared this to other private on-demand ride shares, and it is still extremely competitive in rates. For example, if you take a midday trip from here to Walmart on North 27th, we found that the private ride shares were about $12 during the week. So this would be at least about $4 cheaper than a private ride share. So we feel like it is still affordable for our customers. And this was reviewed by the StarTran Advisory Board, and they did unanimously approve it. I think it was back in November of last year. So it was a while ago, but they did review it. They did unanimously approve, and so we're here today to seek your approval of that change from $5 to $8. We would be putting this into effect, it would be in March. So that's when we would try that. And then what we would do, just like all of our other rates, whether it's our StarTran rates or utility rates, we would just put this to coincide with our budgets and review on that 2-year basis and change if needed, but not a given change. Any questions?
Thank you, Director Elliott. Questions for our director, Councilman Beckius.
Thank you. Director Elliott, could, for the public here today and watching, could you tell us where VanLink sits in between StarTran and paratransit services within the community?
Absolutely, thank you, and I should have covered that sooner. So this is our third, what I call third service option for our customers. We've got our fixed route, that's our $1.25 per ride, or you can get your day or monthly passes. And then we have the corresponding paratransit services, which is $2.50 a ride, or you can get your monthly passes. This is a third separate option that is open to the entire public. You don't have to be a qualified paratransit rider, and you don't have to regularly use the StarTran fixed route service either. It's just available to anyone during the service hours. The service hours, though, for on-demand are a little more limited than our paratransit and our fixed routes. So because of our resources and capacity right now, we are not operating our on-demand van link during our paratransit peak service hours. That way we can focus on our priority of paratransit because they are using the same vehicles, the minivans, the cutaway buses, to offer this services. So the services are Monday through Friday, 7 to 2, and then there's a break, and then they resume 4 to 7 p.m. And then Saturdays, they're from 7 a.m. to 6:45 p.m.
Very good. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Definitely. Thank you.
Other questions? Director, I have just a couple, and I know you briefed all of us recently, so forgive me, and you probably covered this, but there's no income restrictions on VanLink, correct?
That is correct. No restrictions. Anyone can use it.
And not just for seniors,
Correct.
Do you have to have a reservation?
So what we do, you can get it on your phone. There is an app, or you could call in. We prefer the app. It's quicker and easier, just like any of the other private ride shares. And they'll tell you if there is a ride available and how long it would take to get there. Typically, it's usually within 30 minutes that someone can come and get you. So it's a same-day service. And it's something that, again, kind of just is meant to complement our other services in place.
Could you make a reservation for the next day for those people like myself who get a little nervous about not getting a ride if you're in a wheelchair?
Right. This one is actually, I have to think back, this one actually is the same day. So I
Okay.
don't believe you could
Sure.
do advanced reservations on this one.
All right. I think that's all the questions. But it is wheelchair accessible for
Yes.
handicap.
Because we are using our paratransit vehicles, they are all ADA equipped and should be able to accept the wheelchairs. The only caveat I would say is with the minivans, the larger electric wheelchairs, you may have to let us know so we can bring the right vehicle, because we would probably bring a cutaway bus for that.
Well, at the time of the reservation, you should indicate if you need that type of service. Would be
Yes.
helpful.
That would be helpful. That way we can get the right vehicle to you.
Sure. Very good. I really, really like this, that you kept this service after COVID.
We're
I think it's-
excited, and the goal
Mhm.
is to eventually expand it. Right now, we're still trying to get back up to full service, but once we get there, my hope is that we can look into a future expansion.
That would be great. And $8 is break even, basically.
Basically, it is, yes.
Spartan, okay.
We're able to offset a little bit because of just, it coincides with our other services, but right now, that's where we're looking at our operations break-even point.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Madam Clerk, can you please move us on?
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to testify on this item?
All right, seeing none, we can move on.
I'll be calling item 5B, approving the Connected ED Library Card Program Agreement between Lancaster County School District 0001, Lincoln Public Schools and City on behalf of Lincoln City Libraries to provide access to Lincoln City Libraries' physical and electronic resources.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Ryan Weber. I'm director of the Lincoln City Libraries, and our address is 136 South 14th Street. Happy to be here today to provide a little bit of background on this agreement that's before you. It represents a program that we've had in place for about 8 years already. And it's our intention to make it even bigger and better and to make sure that parents and families and students know more about it. And the reason why it's before you today is we had a longstanding MOU with the schools for it, but after review by our legal team here at the city, it was decided that we'd need an interlocal agreement approved by City Council. So that's why I'm here today. But let me give you a little bit of background about the program. It's a nationwide program, and it's called Connect Ed, and it's really, really simple. It's where every student, in this instance, in Lincoln Public Schools, has access to a library card automatically at school enrollment every year, or as new students enroll any point during the year, they automatically receive a library card. They or their family members can opt out if they don't want their student to have a library card. But in our history with the program, there are very few students every year that actually opt out. It's a great thing because it offers students better access to the library, to a bigger collection, to better hours, evenings or weekends. It gives them access to downloadable and streaming materials, specifically our Overdrive collection, which is curated for appropriate grade level materials for kids. So it's a wonderful thing, and we've had an MOU for quite a while, and this has already gone before the school. School administration did approve it. And I think down the road, we want to give it a little bit more descriptive name to allow folks to understand what it is. So part of our work upcoming will be to work with the schools and figure out a way where we can communicate better as to what this program is and the benefits for it. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments? Yes, Councilwoman Suarez.
Thank you. I was just wondering about tracking data. Are you seeing increased use of this program for Lincoln Public Schools and students?
We're not, and that's concerning to us, so we want to make sure that we put more effort to it.
You think it's more just an awareness
It
kind of
is.
situation? Okay.
It certainly is.
Well, thank
right.
you. Thank you. I think it's a great program.
Yeah, and one thing that I didn't mention, just to tack onto that, we do, as part of our MOU or now our upcoming agreement, we're able to capture from the schools the FERPA allowed directory information for kids. So it's their name and their address and their grade level and student and their building as well. So when we get that, we ingest it within our patron database, making it easy for us to administer this and to get kids a library card. But then also it allows us to then just offer a great way to communicate with kids and families as they come in to use the card. So we're looking forward to making it more known.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Other questions or comments for Director?
Great.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else present to testify on this item? Item 5B. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can you please move us on?
Okay. We can now vote on these items. Item 5A is approving the StarTran VanLink on-demand fare increase per trip, introduced by Washington.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Beckius. Further discussion? Seeing none, please call the vote.
Bowers,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Suarez,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 5B is approving the Connect Ed Library Card Program agreement between Lancaster County School District, Lincoln Public Schools, and the city on behalf of Lincoln City Libraries to provide access to Lincoln City Libraries' physical and electronic resources, introduced by Washington.
So moved.
Second?
Seconded by Suarez. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the vote.
Schob,
Yes.
Suarez,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Okay, that concludes Section 5, our public hearing resolution. Next is Section 6. It's a resolution, first reading, public hearing, and action. I'll be calling item 6A, approving the city's application for grant funds from the Nebraska Department of Economic Development through the QCT Recovery Grant Program, Lincoln, for a South Haymarket Park project.
Hello again, Denise Pierce, that's P-E-A-R-C-E, with the Lincoln Parks and Rec Department, 3131 O Street, Suite 300. I'm again here with my colleague, J.J. Yost, and we're here for this request for approval of the city's application for grant funds from the Qualified Census Tract Recovery Grant Program that's administered by the Nebraska Department of Economic Development, or DED. As we talked about just a moment ago, DED announced this grant opportunity on Friday, January 13th, and it was due 2 weeks later. $10 million is available through this grant program. The city submitted a $6 million grant application for the South Haymarket Park project by that January 27th deadline. And this project, as many of you may remember, is a result of lots of planning and community feedback that ultimately recommended a new downtown park in the area of 7th and N, and JJ is pulling up that area, or put that area on the Elmo there. The park will be about 6 acres or so in size. And it'll provide outdoor recreation opportunities not only for those who live and work in the downtown area, but also for those who visit Lincoln and particularly the downtown area. So at this stage, as JJ mentioned earlier, he and his team are working on a conceptual master plan and a cost estimate. We're expecting that work will be completed later this spring.
In April. Yep.
And then a capital campaign by the Lincoln Parks Foundation will follow. I would note that the application that we submitted was supported by the mayor. It was also supported by several Lincoln senators as well as Congressman Mike Flood, and we're very grateful for their support. We want to thank you again for your willingness to waive the rules and do first reading, public hearing and action today, to be responsive to the Department of Economic Development and their request for some feedback from the council as early as we can get it to them. Thank you to Johansi and the city clerk as well for working through that issue with us. And with that, we would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you both for being here again with us. Questions for Ms. Pierce or Mr. Yost? Questions at all? All right. You've been preparing us for this moment.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to waive our rules to allow for us to vote today on this item.
Second?
Moved by Councilwoman Washington to waive the rules and seconded by Councilman Beckius. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Mr. Christie.
Sorry, I think that the motion is to also have public hearing and action.
Oh, yes.
I think that's what you meant.
Actually, that's not what I meant, but I appreciate the correction. I
Okay.
knew that we had a public hearing today. It was first reading on a resolution and public hearing. So I'll accept all of that
Yes.
to happen, but I would also wanted to note that I really did want to waive the rules so we could vote today.
Okay, all right.
Thank you both. So, Mr. Christie, we should continue with public hearing and then vote?
Correct. Today was actually first
Yep.
reading, and so
Oh, right.
right, and so
Yep.
the motion is suspend the rules and have public hearing and vote.
Okay.
Yes.
We will continue with the public
Yes.
hearing. Thank you very much.
I need
Thank
a
you.
second on that.
Vote on the motion to do those things.
Yes.
Laura.
We should vote on
All
that.
right.
Do I have?
Any further discussion before we vote? Is everyone adequately confused? No. Is everyone comfortable?
Adequately corrected.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
You're all right. Councilwoman, are you good?
Yes.
All right. Everyone else? Okay. Thank you. Without further ado.
I need a second on that motion.
Seconded by Councilman Beckius.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying, Madam Clerk. With that, could you please call the vote?
Washington,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Suarez,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you. Now, for the public hearing, to continue, is there anyone present that would like to testify on this item? Anyone present? All right. Last call, okay. Seeing none. Madam Clerk,
Okay.
can you move us on, please? Let's
We-
move on.
We can now vote on this item. Item 6A is approving city's application for grant funds from the Nebraska Department of Economic Development through the QCT Recovery Grant Program, Lincoln for the South Haymarket Park Project, introduced by Beckius.
So moved.
Second?
Seconded by Washington. Any further discussion? All right. Seeing none, please call the vote.
Washington,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Suarez,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Okay. That concludes section 6 of our agenda. We shall now move on to section 7, which is our public hearing ordinances, second reading, and related resolutions. Item 7A is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned the pay range prefix by the letter A by creating the classification of registered dietitian 2.
Hi, Barb McIntyre, 575 South 10th Street, Human Resources Director. This is creating a career path for our dietitians. So 7A and 7B are coming up together. 7A creates the registered dietitian 2. It will impact one employee, and they will get a one-step salary increase. And it's really creating that next level up, so they have somewhere to advance to in their careers, or in essence, kind of a lead worker. And it's for the health department.
Thank you, Director McIntyre. Any questions, comments?
Good.
Yeah, dietitians are good. Thank you. All right, let's move on.
Item 7B is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter A by changing the title from registered dietitian to registered dietitian 1.
Yep, just a title distinguisher from the first one to this one, so.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Item 7B. Seeing none, let's move on.
Item 7C is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter E by changing the title from Human Resources Specialist to Senior Human Resources Specialist.
Yes, so we are cleaning up our HR organization. We did the top of it first, and now that we have all of our division leaders, we're now doing the bottom levels underneath that. And we had one human resource specialist, which really we're going to change to be a senior specialist because we're bringing up our HR generalists and making them just specialists. We really don't have a lot of generalists in HR. You're either specializing in talent acquisition or classification compensation, and all those require unique knowledge and skill set within HR. So it's really recognizing that these are specialists, so that one gets retitled to a senior, so the one underneath it becomes a specialist. Does that make sense? Okay.
Any questions or comments on item 7C from the council? Seeing none, all right.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Item 7D is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter W by changing the title from Human Resources Operations Manager to Human Resources Service Center Manager, Claims and Insurance Coordinator to Claims and Insurance Administrator, and Safety and Training Coordinator to Safety Program Administrator.
All of it is just title cleanups to clarify what they really do in their jobs. There's no salary changes to any of these. It's really just making the titles more reflective of the work. So.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments? Item 7D from the council? All right, let's move on.
Item 7E is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned the pay range prefixed by the letter E by changing the title from Human Resources Generalist to Human Resources Specialist.
Same thing?
Same thing, title cleanup, yes.
Very good. Any questions on item 7E? All right, seeing none,
Okay.
let's move on.
And 7F, amending the pay schedule for employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range which is prefixed by X by changing the pay range class 0612 Human Resources Clerk to Human Resources Representative from X11 to E05.
Yeah, so these actually are generalists, but it's a much broader sense than just a clerk. It's not just about processing actions, but being a representative for questions and providing more customer service. So it's really trying to take a look at that group and say, this is kind of our HR service center, that if you have a question, you're not sure how to do something, it's always a great first phone call for us to get you directed to where you need to go. So it's just title cleanup, but we are also giving them a small pay bump. That was based on market data when we looked at what should this group be making. It just brings them in line to that market data. So this group is getting a pay increase, a small one, just to be clear.
Questions? Yes, Councilman Beck, yes.
Director, approximately how many folks do we have in this specific?
We have 3.
3. Okay,
yes,
very good.
Absolutely.
I knew it wasn't many, but I didn't know
it's not
for
very
sure.
many. Nope, it's 3.
Okay, thank you, Director.
Yes.
Councilwoman Washington.
Thank you, Madam. Have we planned for this in the budget, this pay bump?
Yep, that is in our budget. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? I guess I would just ask Director, since we planned in the budget and it's only 3, and I'm grateful that people do get increases. I think that's important. Do you recall how much of an increase, not per person, but in general?
I do not recall.
You knew that someone would ask this,
I
didn't you? That's
should have
fine.
known
That's
that,
all right.
yes.
We can talk.
As I recall, it wasn't a lot. I'm off the top of my head, it's somewhere between 3 and 5%, but I can get that exact
Okay,
number if
that's
you'd like
fine.
it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments? All right, let's move on.
I'll be calling item 7G and 7H together. Item 7G is approving the construction ground lease and operating agreement between the City of Lincoln, Nebraska and the Lincoln Youth Complex for the Lincoln Youth Complex sports fields for a term of 35 years and the related interlocal agreement between the City of Lincoln and Lancaster County, Nebraska to contribute funds to the Lincoln Youth Complex ball fields on property generally located at 2100 North First Street.
Welcome, Mr. Correll.
Thank you.
We're happy to have you here.
Pleased to be here. Good afternoon. My name is Brad Correll, K-O-R-E-L-L. I am president of the Lincoln Youth Complex. Our home will be located at First and Cornhusker Highways here in Lincoln. The vision for the Lincoln Youth Complex grew out of the Vision 2015 initiative to create a better community that would help attract and retain young people and provide families a great place to raise and grow their children. Vision 2015 produced Pinnacle Bank Arena, redevelopment of the West Haymarket, Nebraska Innovation Campus, completion of Antelope Valley, the Breslow Ice Center, among its transformative achievements. The Lincoln Youth Complex is the final pillar to be completed. When fully stabilized, the Lincoln Youth Complex will bring to Lincoln the following: 7 top-flight fields for youth softball and baseball, fields that are badly needed today. A permanent home for Homer's heroes, youth with physical and intellectual disabilities. A home for Nebraska Wesleyan University softball and baseball programs. You'll hear more about that in just a minute. A park that will attract over 200,000 players, families, and friends, and that's equivalent, that's per year, and that's equivalent to over 2 Husker home football games. It's a facility that will attract state, regional, and hopefully national tournaments, bringing activity to hotels, restaurants, museums, and increasing sales and lodging taxes. And finally, something that I'm most proud of, a program supported by Nebraska Wesleyan University to help disadvantaged youth in our community experience for the first time the joy of playing a youth sport. This park is truly for the youth of our community. This project, being built on a former city landfill, has many challenges. It has taken a true public-private partnership to overcome many major obstacles and make it a reality. I want to thank Jocelyn Golden and Chris Connolly with the City Attorney's Office, Grace Wilnard, the ARPA Program Coordinator, David Durbin with Lancaster County, the Lincoln City Council, the JPA Board, Lancaster County Board, and many others who have worked so hard to help us to get to this day. I also want to say a special thank you to Mayor Larian Gaylor Baird, who made this project a priority and has supported it steadfastly throughout the process, and to her assistant, Jennifer Williams, who has had to talk me off the ledge more than once. Finally, a public thank you to our board and steering committee and Attorney Joel Peterson for guiding this project forward. At this time, I'd like to call on Dr. Darren Good, President of Nebraska Wesleyan University, to add his comments, and then we can stand for your questions. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Darren Good, D-A-R-R-I-N, G-O-O-D, President of Nebraska Wesleyan University. Absolutely thrilled to be here before you. First and foremost, I want to emphasize that this will be transformative for our softball and baseball programs. However, what excites us most is being a mutualistic partner with the City of Lincoln in all entities that we can partner with. The crown jewel that these stadiums will provide for our programs is overshadowed, we believe, by the ability to have a great place for youth throughout Lincoln, Nebraska, and the region to play softball and baseball tournaments, as well as a chance for youth in Lincoln to have an opportunity to grow and learn the games. Our baseball and softball programs, coaches and players alike, are absolutely emphatic that they want to develop a program that would help our players and coaches work with underserved and underprivileged youth in Lincoln to help them not only learn the game that they love, but to be mentors and advocates for the sports among our youth.
Thank you, Dr. Good. Are there questions for either Mr. Correll or Dr. Good on this item? Councilman Beckius.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No questions. Just wanted to extend a thanks to the committee. Appreciate the information on the committee and the leaders for moving this project forward. As you stated, I think this will be transformative for the city of Lincoln, and more importantly, transformative for the participants of the fields themselves and the programs that take advantage of these fields. So thank you to you.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate your support.
Any other comments or questions for either? I would just like to add my gratitude as well. I think the majority of the council was at the groundbreaking last spring or fall. Fall. It was amazing, the event you put together. And it's such an exciting time for Lincoln. So thank you for all your hard work on that. And I'd be remiss not to call out Don Hers is in the audience. And he doesn't like the attention, but he also has done a great deal of work, former finance director. So thank you as well, Don, for all your due diligence on the project. So thank you very much. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
Anyone else present to testify on this item? This is item 7G. Anyone else? All right, let's move on.
I'll be calling item 7I, 7J, 7K, and L together. Item 7I is Comprehensive Plan Amendment 22006, application of White Holdings LLC to amend the 2050 Lincoln-Lancaster County Comprehensive Plan to amend the future land use plan from urban residential to urban residential and commercial on property generally located at North 112th and O Streets, and the related application of White Holdings LLC to annex approximately 14.68 acres, more or less, on the property generally located at North 112th and O Streets. Item 7K is approving the conditional annexation and change of zone agreement between the City of Lincoln Fund 51 LLC and White Holdings LLC for the annexation and development of the property generally located at the northwest corner of North 112th and O Street, and the related change of zone 22036 application of White House Holdings LLC to change the zoning designation from AG Agriculture District to R3 Residential District on the property generally located at North 112th and O Streets.
Good afternoon, members of the City Council. Danae Kalkowski appearing today on behalf of White Holdings LLC and Fund 51 LLC, developers for this project. Also with me today is Mark Palmer from Olson Associates. If you have any tough engineering questions, we'll bring Mark up here. As was mentioned, we have multiple applications here for the development of a new site. This site sits on the northwest corner of 112th and O Street. So kind of just surrounded to the north and to the west by Dominion at Stevens Creek residential development. This site is got a couple of unique features in that it is subject to two of the gas pipeline planning areas, the one along the south side along O Street, and then also it's impacted by one along the east side of the property too. So the gas line runs just on the west side of 112th Street. So that provides some unique challenges in kind of the layout and what we're asking to do on the property. So the first application is for a comprehensive plan amendment to change a portion of the property from urban residential to commercial. And that's largely because of that pipeline planning area. Not a good place to locate residential type uses, so that forces us to look at some uses that are either more of a commercial residential type nature. So you can see that that area follows largely that pipeline planning area and then grabs a little bit extra here down in the corner. You can see here's just a site plan of the preliminary plat request that we have in. You can see the little red dotted line sort of shows you how that pipeline planning area impacts the site. But the preliminary plat is showing two phases of development, the residential area that's shown for single family residential right now, and then that area that's the commercial, we're kind of showing that as a phase 2 area. Don't know exactly what those uses will be. They wanted to go ahead and get the preliminary plat approved so that residential could potentially move forward. It will largely take its access from the multiple access points that are already existing there into the Dominion Estates development. The Phase 2 area will be back in when we're ready to determine exactly what the uses will be there. And at that point in time, we'll have to address 112th Street, which is not paved, and the access points and improvements to 112th Street. As part of this, the applications too, we have just an annexation request and a change of zone request for just a north area. The annexation agreement, like I said, covers the entire area other than leaving some of the Phase 2 details out, but we're just going to annex and zone the first area that would come in through probably a final plat. We had multiple waiver requests along with this preliminary plat. There was one that a planning department was not recommending approval of, and that was a block length waiver. Prior to planning commission, we indicated that we would make that block connection, so we do not need that waiver any longer. So all of the waivers that we're requesting were supported by the planning department and planning commission. We sent out letters to about 160 neighbors. Since we're close to the Dominion, we grab a lot of neighbors, and we had 2 calls just with questions about the project as a result of that. At Planning Commission, we were on the consent agenda, and so received approval on the consent agenda, but then found we had a couple neighbors who didn't understand the consent agenda and were out in the hallway after. And they had a couple questions about 112th Street and how that street would be utilized. I think concerned about construction traffic, et cetera, for the development. At this stage, as I mentioned, all of the access points for builders, homeowners, et cetera, to access the residential will come through the Dominion Estates. So the traffic for actual construction of homes will not be utilizing extensively 112th. However, as the developer constructs infrastructure and does overall grading, there will likely be a permit requested from the county for those larger vehicles to be able to take access directly from 112th Street to do that larger infrastructure work for the development. I think that's kind of it. If you have any other questions, we'd be happy to answer, either Mark or I.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments for Ms. Kalkowski or Mr. Palmer? Councilwoman Washington.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Ms. Galkowski. I am just curious what this is not in this phase, so I'm thinking a little bit further down. But can you tell me a little bit about the commercial portion of this project in the future?
Right now, there's several ideas out there. There is the potential to do some contractor services type uses. I think in this area of town, there's a demand for that. And that would be a good use under that pipeline planning area where you don't have a lot of high intense uses. Mm-hmm. There was some conversation about either commercial or potentially even some multifamily in here where you could place your buildings, up in the area that's outside the pipeline planning area, but put your parking and some of that. The other thing, I guess, this site is impacted by, there'll be probably some additional right-of-way acquired along O Street from Nebraska Department of Roads, because they ended up taking some additional right-of-way too from the project to the east. But at this stage, just ideas, Councilwoman, and then there's a potential even that as we develop that plan, it may, the configuration on just the edges may change a little bit too. So don't be surprised if you see us again when we know a little bit more about what they want to do with it.
Yeah. I noticed in one of the earlier photos that sort of showed the comp plan area, and it was bright colors, that there are a couple of areas of wetland or natural space that is important. That's been identified, environmental resources and green space, as important to the comp plan. And I just wanted to just draw our attention to that. I see that it comes down and touches that southeast corner. Just want to just make note of that publicly, that will be important to make sure that no impacts on that or limited impacts on that.
Yeah, we've got some flood, I think there's some floodplain. It largely stays on the east side of 112th there, Mark. But yeah, it's in proximity.
Councilman Beckius.
I just wanted to thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank White Holdings, the civil engineer, of abutting residential to the existing residential there, while still trying to maintain flexibility with the commercial area. As we know, those pipelines can cause trouble with developing land to its highest and best use. So, but White Holdings has always done a very nice job of making sure that they are abutting existing residential to new potential residential. And I appreciate that, and I think it offers us an opportunity to be more flexible with those commercial areas as we proceed forward, as new residents will know from the
Yes.
get-go that commercial will be there.
Yeah, and typically we're usually pretty good about putting that in the covenants too, so there's some additional disclosure. People don't always see it, but we try to put it in multiple places to give them the best opportunity to see it possible.
Yeah. So thank you.
You're
I appreciate it.
Other questions or comments? The applicant. All right, saying none, thank you both very much. Anyone else present to testify on these items? Anyone else present to testify on these items? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, let's move on.
Okay, that concludes section 7 of our agenda. We shall move on to section 8, ordinances, third reading and related resolutions. Item 8A is change of zone 22035, application of Olson to change from B1 local business district to R1 residential district and B2 planned neighborhood business district, and from R1 residential district to B2 planned neighborhood business district on property generally located at 2201 Old Cheney Road, introduced by Suarez.
So moved.
Second?
Seconded by Beckius. Further discussion? Seeing none. Yes, oh, sorry, Councilman Beckius.
I would just like to take a second to thank the development team of this this new redevelopment area for working with the neighborhood and taking their requests into consideration. Thank you very much. I think that what we have here before us is a development that not only moves this land forward, but continues to recognize the desires of the existing neighbors surrounding them. And I think will be a nice complement to the neighborhood going forward. So thank you to the development team. Appreciate it.
Councilwoman Washington.
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate what Councilman Becky has said. I think that the movement of the commercial area along Old Cheney was a good decision, and I really appreciate the fact that this conversation happened away from the most contentious venue, and that everybody came to the table to talk it out and to find a compromise that could work for each party. Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you, Councilwoman. Other comments or questions? All right. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Beckius,
Yes.
Suarez,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 8B is approving a lease agreement between the City of Lincoln and the Department of Administrative Services on behalf of Nebraska Department of Labor for the lease of space by Nebraska Department of Labor for the Greater Lincoln's American Job Center at 1330 N Street from January 27th, 2023 through December 31st of 2030. Introduced by Suarez.
So moved.
Second?
Seconded by Beckius. Further discussion? I have, before we,
Yes.
if you don't mind, thank you. I just had a question. I don't know if we have staff available. I know, I'm just curious, the American Job Center has moved in, and I just want clarification on approving the lease after they've already moved in. And I don't know if there's anyone in the or Mr. Christie, are you able to help us? Or I'm trying to get someone else for you. How that works. I'm sure it's fine, or they wouldn't have moved in before we approved the lease agreement, but it makes me just a little curious.
So the way that Johansi Christie, city attorney. Oh, I thought you were saying someone's coming. The way that I understand your question is, they have moved in already, and now we are approving the lease.
Yeah, it feels like after the fact.
I will say that this is a timeline that I don't know if I would use the word frequently, but it sometimes happens that the parties will negotiate with the negotiations will still be going on while they are close to a closing, and it might be for different reasons. It might be that they have to move out of their current situation, and so the understanding is that, well, you can stay here so long as this is approved, right? And so while I don't have anyone present right now that worked on the lease or corresponded with these entities, I will tell you that generally speaking, that's how it will work, is that we'll understand there still has to be an approval process by the entities, and you can stay here in the future so long as they continue to approve it. So,
Would it be urban development that would be in charge of this lease, or is it law department? I mean, if I were moving into an apartment, I don't think I'd be able to get into an apartment if I hadn't signed the lease. I mean, I just want to make sure we're doing our our due diligence. I don't want to approve something after the fact. And maybe we've done this and I just haven't noticed, but this is giving me a little bit of angst without further explanation from whoever is in charge of this lease.
and again, I don't know exactly how it was communicated to the lessee, but just generally speaking, we find ourselves in a situation, that's how it will be explained, but I did not have those conversations. But again, just sometimes the timing is such that you're allowed to be here on a temporary basis.
But we don't know if that's the case or not with this. Is there any, I mean, I know it's not, you're doing your legal explanation, but it's given me some pause. I guess I need more, to be honest, than in order to vote for. I know they're in. I love that they're in. I love the new location. I just don't know that approving it after the fact is good business. Does that make sense?
Let me see if there's any language in here.
Director?
Yes, Councilwoman
Washington?
Washington?
Yeah, Madam Chair, when I reviewed the lease, because I had some questions similar, I did see the earlier section that talks about if the lessor takes occupancy before the lease is completed, it gives the rules for how to manage the lease payment. It doesn't, of course, say anything beyond that, but it does describe the situation that they might move in beforehand, and if they should, this is how payment will be calculated.
Thank you.
It's 2.1.
The section, okay. All right. I don't know what else. I just not comfortable.
I'm glad that it's in writing, but yes.
So, thank you, Councilwoman Washington. So who oversees these leases in the city? If it's not the law department, is it the department that oversees the job? I'm just curious, the job center? Is it in the mayor's office? Or
Yes.
where does that happen? So,
WIOA is a division in the mayor's office. And I believe it was presented last week. Mr. Dylan Wren, thank you. He is in the mayor's office.
So it doesn't necessarily go to legal, all the leases that we do?
Correct, but I mean the legal documents and stuff, obviously we're responsible for it, but yes, it is with the WIOA,
right,
which is within the mayor's office. WIOA program, which is within the mayor's office.
All right. Okay, thank you, Mr. Christie. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you very much.
I do think there's a motion too.
And Councilwoman Washington, you are recognized on MTA number 1.
I wanted to offer a motion to amend this agreement in order to add an additional 53 square feet.
Of an
to
unapproved lease.
To
Okay.
the lease that would be signed after we approved it. But it looks like the lessor would like another 53 square feet.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Beckius. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the vote.
Beckius,
Yes.
Suarez,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. We have the main motion. Beckius,
Yes.
Suarez,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Okay.
That concludes section 8 of our agenda. Section 9 is resolutions, first readings, item 9A through 9C. Section 10, ordinances, first reading and related resolutions, item 10A and 10B. And pending list, items 11A through 11C.
All right.
Madam Chair, I move we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Suarez,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
We are adjourned.